Hello, my name is Jennifer Martinez. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a graphic designer for a marketing agency. For the past 7 years, I've been married to David Martinez, a sales manager who I thought was my soulmate and life partner. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about betrayal, about how sometimes the cruelest revelations come not from what people do, but from what they choose not to do, and about the moment when I realized that the man I married had been living a double life right under my nose. To understand this story, you need to know about the foundation of our relationship. David and I met 8 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. We danced all night, talked until sunrise, and I felt like I had found my person. Our relationship moved quickly. We were engaged within a year and married 6 months later. Our wedding was beautiful, but simple, and our honeymoon at the Grandview Resort was absolutely magical. It was a 3-day weekend at a boutique hotel overlooking the ocean, and David surprised me by upgrading us to the penthouse suite. He said he wanted our first trip as husband and wife to be unforgettable. For the first few years of our marriage, David was everything I had dreamed of in a husband. He was attentive, romantic, and made me feel like the most important person in his world. He remembered little things: my favorite coffee order, the way I liked my eggs, the anniversary of our first date. Every year, on our wedding anniversary, he would plan something special. Nothing extravagant, but always thoughtful and meaningful. But over the past 2 years, things had started to change. David became more distant, more distracted. He was working longer hours, traveling more frequently for his job, and when he was home, he was often on his phone or laptop. When I tried to talk to him about it, he would say he was under a lot of pressure at work and that things would get better once he closed some big deals he was working on. Our 6th anniversary last year was disappointing. David seemed to have forgotten about it entirely until I mentioned it that morning, and then he quickly booked us a table at a restaurant we'd been to many times before. It felt rushed and thoughtless, but I convinced myself that he was just stressed about work. This year, our 7th anniversary was approaching, June 15th, and I was hopeful that things would be different. I had been dropping hints for weeks, talking about how excited I was to celebrate 7 years together, mentioning that the Grandview Resort had sent us a promotional email about their anniversary packages. I even left the email open on our shared computer, hoping David would take the hint. But as June 15th approached, David seemed more distracted than ever. June 15th arrived on a Tuesday this year. I woke up early, excited and nervous, expecting David to surprise me with breakfast in bed, or at least a card and flowers. Instead, I found a note on the kitchen counter saying he had an early meeting and would see me tonight. I spent the day at work distracted, checking my phone constantly for a text, a call, flowers delivered to my office, anything that would show he remembered what day it was. My colleagues asked if I had special plans for the evening, and I kept saying, "I think so," while my heart sank deeper with each passing hour. When David came home that evening, he was on his phone, as usual, talking animatedly to someone about quarterly projections and client presentations. He kissed me absently on the cheek and headed straight for his laptop. "How was your day?" I asked, giving him every opportunity to remember. "Crazy busy," he replied, without looking up. "I've got this huge presentation tomorrow for the Morrison account. Rain check on dinner? I really need to prep for this." I stood in our kitchen, staring at the man who had forgotten our 7th wedding anniversary, and felt something break inside me. Not just disappointment, I had felt that before. This was something deeper. It was the realization that I had become invisible in my own marriage. "David," I said, my voice carefully controlled, "do you know what today is?" He glanced up from his laptop, irritated at being interrupted. "Tuesday, June 15th. Why?" "It's our anniversary," I said quietly. The look on his face, confusion followed by panic, followed by guilty realization, told me everything I needed to know. He had completely forgotten. Not just forgotten to plan something, he had forgotten the day existed. "Oh God, Jen, I'm so sorry," he said, closing his laptop. "I've been so swamped with work. Let me make it up to you this weekend. We'll do something really special." But the damage was done. The man who used to remember the anniversary of our first kiss had forgotten the anniversary of our wedding, and his solution was to push it off to a more convenient time, as if our anniversary was just another item on his to-do list that could be rescheduled. "Don't worry about it," I said, and I meant it. I was done worrying about it. 2 days later, while David was in the shower, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was sitting on our dresser, and the notification lit up the screen. I normally wouldn't look at his phone, but the message preview caught my attention because it mentioned a hotel reservation. Confirmation, Grandview Resort, Penthouse Suite, June 22nd, 24th. Can't wait to celebrate with you. Heart. My blood ran cold. The Grandview Resort, our honeymoon hotel, the penthouse suite where we had spent our first nights as husband and wife. And June 22nd? That was this coming Friday. I stared at the message, trying to make sense of it. Who was texting David about a hotel reservation? And why was he going to our special place without me? The text was from someone named Emma, with a heart emoji next to her name. I didn't know any Emma in David's life. At least, I didn't think I did. When David came out of the bathroom, I was still standing there holding his phone, my hands shaking. "Jen, what's wrong?" he asked, seeing my expression. I turned the phone toward him, showing him the message. "Who is Emma, and why are you going to the Grandview Resort with her?" David's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, panic, and then something that looked like resignation. "Jen, I can explain." "Please do," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you forgot our anniversary but remembered to book our honeymoon hotel for a weekend getaway with someone else." The silence that followed was deafening. "Her name is Emma Richardson," David said, finally, not meeting my eyes. "She's a marketing coordinator at one of our client companies. We've been seeing each other for about 6 months." 6 months. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Seeing each other how exactly?" "We're having an affair," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It started as just work meetings, then drinks after work, and then it became more." I sat down on the chair across from our bed, needing to put some distance between us. 6 months. You've been cheating on me for 6 months. It wasn't supposed to happen, David said, finally looking at me. Emma is... She's young, she's exciting, she makes me feel like I did when I was in my 20s. It was supposed to just be a distraction, a midlife thing that would run its course. But it didn't run its course, I said. "No," he admitted. "It got more serious. Emma started talking about her future, about what she wanted in a relationship, and I realized that I was falling in love with her." "You're in love with her," I repeated, testing how the words sounded. They sounded like the end of my marriage. "Jen, I never meant for this to happen. You have to believe that. But Emma makes me feel alive in a way that I haven't felt in years. She's passionate about life, about her career, about us. She doesn't take me for granted." "I take you for granted?" I asked, incredulous. "We've fallen into a routine," David said. "We go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed.
We stopped really seeing each other years ago. With Emma, everything is new and exciting. So you forgot our anniversary because you were too busy planning a romantic getaway with your girlfriend? David winced at the word girlfriend. Emma's birthday is June 23rd. I wanted to do something special for her. The Grandview Resort was where I felt most happy, most myself. I thought it would be the perfect place to celebrate her. The irony was breathtaking. He had taken our most sacred place, the location of our honeymoon, and turned it into the setting for his affair. It wasn't just adultery, it was desecration. "You're taking her to our honeymoon hotel," I said, my voice breaking for the first time. "You're taking another woman to the place where we promised to love each other forever." "I know how it looks," David said weakly. "How it looks?" I stood up, fury finally replacing shock. "David, you forgot our anniversary, the day we got married, but you remembered your mistress's birthday? You're taking her to our honeymoon suite? How exactly do you think it looks?" "There's something else you need to know," David said. And somehow I knew that what came next would be even worse. "What else could there possibly be?" I asked. "Emma knows about you," he said. "She knows I'm married." "She knows you're married and she's okay with it?" "She's been pressuring me to leave you," David admitted. "She says she's tired of being the other woman. She wants a real relationship, not just stolen moments and secret dates." "And what did you tell her?" David was quiet for a long moment. "I told her I was thinking about it." The betrayal kept getting deeper. Not only was David having an affair, but he and his mistress were actively discussing ending our marriage. They were making plans for a future that didn't include me, while I was at home wondering why my husband seemed so distant. "How long have you been thinking about leaving me?" I asked. "A few months," he said. "Ever since Emma and I got serious. She's everything I thought I wanted when I was younger. She's ambitious, she's independent, she challenges me. And I don't?" "Jen, you're a wonderful person," David said, and the past tense of his words made my stomach drop. "You're kind and stable, and you've been a great wife. But we got married so young. I sometimes wonder if we just grew into different people." "Different people?" I repeated. "You mean you grew into the kind of person who cheats on his wife and forgets his anniversary while planning romantic getaways with other women?" "That's not fair," David protested. "Fair?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you talking to me about feeling disconnected instead of running to another woman. Fair would have been marriage counseling instead of hotel reservations with your girlfriend. Fair would have been honesty instead of lies." "You're right," David said quietly. "I handled this all wrong. I should have been honest with you from the beginning." "The beginning of what? Your affair, or the beginning of when you decided our marriage wasn't worth fighting for?" David didn't answer, which was answer enough. "I want you to pack a bag and leave. Go to your girlfriend. Go to the Grandview Resort. Have your romantic weekend. But don't come back here. Jen, we should talk about this more. We should figure out how to handle the practical stuff. The house, the finances, telling our families. The practical stuff." "You mean the divorce?" David nodded reluctantly. "If that's what you want?" "What I wanted was a husband who remembered our anniversary. What I'm getting is a divorce." After David left with a suitcase, I sat in our empty house and cried for about an hour. Then I got angry. Then I got strategic.
I called my best friend Sarah, who was also a divorce attorney, and told her everything. Her reaction was immediate and professional. Jennifer, first of all, I'm so sorry. Second, you need to document everything. Do you have access to David's phone records, credit card statements, any evidence of the affair? I can get them, I said. We have shared accounts. Do it now, before he thinks to hide anything. Take screenshots, print statements, save everything. In fault-based divorce states, adultery can significantly affect property division and spousal support. For the next 2 hours, I systematically gathered evidence of David's affair. Credit card charges at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels I'd never stayed at, jewelry purchases I'd never received. The paper trail of his deception was extensive and damning. But the most painful discovery was in his email. Months of correspondence with Emma, talking about their future together, complaining about me, making plans for the life they would build once he sorted out his situation. In one email from 3 weeks ago, Emma wrote, "I know this is hard, but you need to tell Jennifer soon. I'm tired of hiding, and honestly, it's not fair to any of us. She deserves to know, and I deserve to have you completely." David's response? "I know you're right. Jennifer's anniversary's coming up, and I keep thinking it might be the right time to tell her. Maybe it's fitting, ending things on the day we started them." So he had been planning to tell me on our anniversary. Our forgotten anniversary was supposed to be the day he destroyed our marriage. The cruel irony was almost unbearable. But then I found something that changed everything. An email from Emma to David sent just yesterday. "Can't wait for our weekend at the Grandview. I've been researching the area and I found the cutest little chapel nearby. Wouldn't it be romantic if we got engaged there? I know it's soon, but when you know, heart." David wasn't just leaving me for Emma, he was planning to propose to her at our honeymoon hotel. That's when I decided that David and Emma's romantic weekend was going to be very different from what they had planned. I spent Friday preparing. I called the Grandview Resort and, using David's confirmation number from the text on his phone, I was able to get information about their reservation. They were checking in Friday evening and staying through Sunday. I booked myself a room for Friday night only. I also did something else. I called Emma's office. "Hi, this is Jennifer Martinez," I said to the receptionist. "I'm trying to reach Emma Richardson. I'm David Martinez's wife, and I have some important information about their weekend plans." When Emma came to the phone, her voice was cautious. "Hello?" "Hi, Emma. I'm Jennifer, David's wife. I think we should meet." There was a long silence. "I don't think that's a good idea." "I think it's a very good idea," I said calmly. "See, I know about your affair. I know about your weekend plans. And I know about your hopes for an engagement. I think you should know some things too." "What things?" Emma asked, her voice smaller now. "Things like the fact that the Grandview Resort is where David and I honeymooned. Things like the fact that he forgot our anniversary last week but remembered your birthday. Things like the fact that you're not the first affair he's had." That last part was a lie, but I could hear Emma's sharp intake of breath. "Meet me in the lobby of the Grandview Resort at 7 p.m. tonight, before David arrives. Trust me, you'll want to hear what I have to say." I arrived at the Grandview Resort at 6:30 p.m. and checked into my room and waited in the lobby. Emma arrived exactly at 7, looking nervous and beautiful. She was younger than I had expected, probably mid-20s, with long blonde hair and the kind of confidence that comes from never having been truly disappointed by life. "Jennifer?" she said, approaching me hesitantly. "Emma, thank you for coming. Shall we sit?" We sat in 2 chairs facing each other, and I studied the woman my husband was leaving me for. She was lovely, I had to admit, young and bright, and full of the kind of optimism that I remembered having at her age. "What did you want to tell me?" Emma asked. "I wanted to tell you that the man you're in love with is a liar."
Not just because he's cheating on his wife, though that's certainly part of it, but because he's lied to you too. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I had taken of David's credit card statements. These are charges from the past 6 months. Do you see these restaurant bills? The ones from nights when he told you he was working late? Emma looked at the dates, and I watched her face change as she realized what I was showing her. He was with other women, Emma. You're not his only affair, Emma. You're just his current one.
6 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment, smaller than the house I shared with David, but entirely mine, writing this story. The divorce was finalized last month, and thanks to the evidence I gathered and David's adultery, I received a very favorable settlement. The confrontation at the Grandview Resort had gone exactly as I hoped. Emma was devastated to learn that David had been cheating on her too, with at least 2 other women that I could document. When David arrived at the hotel an hour later, expecting a romantic birthday celebration, he found both his wife and his mistress waiting for him in the lobby. The conversation was brief and public. Emma threw her room key at him and told him he was a lying piece of trash. I handed him divorce papers that Sarah had prepared and told him he had 30 days to respond. Then Emma and I walked out together, leaving David standing alone in the lobby of the hotel where he had once promised to love me forever. Emma and I aren't friends. Too much has happened for that. But we did have coffee once a few weeks later. She thanked me for opening her eyes, and I thanked her for helping me find the courage to end a marriage that had been dead for longer than I wanted to admit. I've started dating again, nothing serious yet, but I'm learning to trust my instincts about people. I'm also learning that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel invisible. David tried to reconcile with me twice in the months after our divorce was filed. Apparently, losing both his wife and his girlfriend at the same time was harder than he had anticipated. But I was done. I had loved him completely for 7 years, and he had repaid that love with deception and cruelty. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate or dramatic. Sometimes it's just refusing to accept less than you deserve and walking away with your dignity intact. David forgot our anniversary, but I'll never forget the lesson it taught me. I am worth remembering, I am worth celebrating, and I am definitely worth more than being someone's second choice. If this story shocked you, just wait for what's next. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and of course, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single notification.